I think a game changer is someone who is creating a new equation, and the way that I see it is progressing us forward. Someone that is bringing something to the table that's going to take us to the next level so that we're in a better space than before they got there. What inspired me is, my parents always raised me realizing how fortunate I've been, and all the blessings that I've been given, and realizing that to those who much is given, much is demanded. And so I've always looked to try and figure out how can I iterate so that I can give something back. And that could look lots of different ways, but that's always driving me at the end of the day. My advice would be, it doesn't have to look any one way. Find your talents, find what drives you, what interests you, and then contribute it. And you can contribute it in different ways at different times in your life, in your career. But just that desire to give back is enough of a start, but don't stop there. Bring it into action and take the steps in order to bring into fruition your desire to give back. The principles that guide me each day is trying to be present to the gifts that I have in the moment, and at the same time also be forward-looking. So while being present, also think about where do I want to go and what do I want to bring into the world to make it a better place. And trying to balance those two things keeps me very busy. I've been so blessed in my life. I've had tremendous people who have contributed to me, role models and mentors, and that's inspired me to then give back to the community as well. And it's funny, one of those role models, his name is Esteban Ramirez. He was an executive vice president during my time at Kodak, and was very generous with his time with me while I was there. And he always said to me, when I said, "Thank you so much for your time," he would say to me, "I'm investing in you right now because I know that this investment, you're going to then go and invest in 10 more people. And those 10 people are going to go out and invest in 10 more. And so it's this multitude ripple effect that happens as a result of what I'm giving to you." And I took that very seriously. But the time that he spent with me, Enrique Brower, while also at Kodak, when I was all the way going back to high school, Eileen Connolly, who was my speech and debate teacher, really thanks to her, I have been able to hone this gift of public speaking. My parents are probably the biggest mentors and role models for me, my mother and my father, for different reasons and in different ways. But really, I've just been so blessed and touched through every step of my career with wonderful people who have reached out and said, "How can we help you? How can we contribute to you?" And then that in turn has motivated me to want to do the same for the community. I think that, some of the biggest accomplishments that I've had have been accomplishments that are me planting the seed and helping to water the plant as it's starting to grow and bring others to the table so that they are also, giving nutrients to that plant and helping it continue to flourish. And so a couple of examples of that. When I was in San Francisco, I started something called Progressive Women in Politics, and it was women who were just interested in making a difference, and all of us in different ways. Some actually worked in the space, some just volunteered, but we got together and supported each other as women. And then when I actually left San Francisco 3 years later and moved to Texas, I handed it over to two women who turned it into the Good Old Girls Network, and it's still thriving in California today. So that's very exciting for me. Another example is Latinos in social media. So I was one of the first people that helped to bring that into fruition. I remember Luis Pagan and Ana Roca Castro were the two of the key players. There was a team of folks that actually started that at the very beginning, but they were kind of the two that were really driving it when I got involved in their first conference in New York. And then I said, "Hey, let's bring this to DC to take it to the next level," because the New York one didn't go so wonderfully. And people were worried, where does it go from now? And so I said, let's continue to nourish this plant, let's help it grow. And we brought it to DC, got together with the other Cinco Latinas, and we had this phenomenal conference that really gave people hope and that helped the organization, flourish. And we founded it as a nonprofit. I helped to make that happen, helped to establish the first board, and again, then handed it over, still very supportive of Latinos in social media. But again, it's thriving through the leadership of other people who are now there. But those are just two examples, but that's the kind of role I like to play, helping to plant something, help to nourish it at the beginning, and then find great people that'll help to continue to support it as it's growing and going to the next step. I think, so there are a couple of demographics that are very important in this upcoming election. They were in the last election, and I think people are looking to see, are these demographics going to continue to engage in 2008 as they did in 2004? And so, the three demographics that I'd point to are women, the Latino community, and youth. And, we were talking about this earlier, that folks were so inspired in the last cycle that there was so much hunger and so much energy and desire for change, and it brought people out. And so the question now is, will that same energy still be there? Will people still come out this next election cycle? Not voting for something is different than voting for something, and wanting to come out to the polls because you're worried about something happening is very different than something pulling you to the polls because you're so excited about the candidates and what they offer. And so I think that is what I'm really interested in seeing over the course of the next few months, is what kind of momentum is going to be put in place by the candidates in order to draw folks to actually participate and be involved in 2008 as they were in 2004. As it relates to those demographics, women, the Latino community, and youth. As it relates to the Latino community specifically, too, I think there are several key issues that are of import to our community. One of those issues definitely is jobs and what we're seeing as it relates to the economy. Latinos are one of the populations that has been the hardest hit by what's been happening. And so I think that they're looking for an answer and for the future, and many of us are still very much attuned to and believe in that American dream and want to work with our policymakers to bring that to fruition. And so I think that's one. Two is around healthcare, and that being so important. There's been some tremendous movement that's happened as a result of that, and I think people are excited about that. But continuing that, moving it forward to help support the community, which still is really challenged by that issue. Education, obviously, without education, we're going to end up with a community of have and have-nots. In a demographic right now in the United States where 1 out of every 4 children being born is Latino, that is the future of this country. It is inextricably linked with the future of the United States, the future of the Latino community. But without an education, we're going to have essentially another level of citizens who, are not able to contribute and be involved and help this nation get to where it needs to be economically. And then lastly, immigration. I think the Latino community, has definitely taken stock of what happened or didn't happen this last year as it relates to immigration. And it's an issue that is so important to our community. And folks are hopeful, I think, that something will happen moving forward, but it's time for hechos, palabras. And I've said this consistently for years now. We need action, hechos, not just words. And so I think that's going to be very important, and folks are going to be waiting to hear and see what politicians have to say about that before deciding whether or not they're going to come out and vote. And so we all know that these politicians are counting on this demographic and counting on them to vote. They're going to need to address these issues that are of import to the community. So that's a very complex question. I have a couple of ideas around that. I think first and foremost, we, the community, meaning citizens, American citizens, and also non-citizens, American people, residents, folks who are here in this country, we all need to realize that we are the solution. We can't just put it back on the politicians. If we're apathetic, if we're not engaged, if we're not voting, if we're not pushing from the inside, from the outside, if we're not running for office ourselves, we can't expect to see the deliverables that we're hoping to happen. So that's number one. Number one is, I think, for people to take the responsibility and realize that we need to be in action ourselves, all of us, individually and collectively. But number two, I think it is placing that pressure on our public officials. We cannot be silent, and we need to let them know. We've been taking stock. We've been watching you for the last 4 years. We know what you've done, what you haven't done. We know what you've promised and what promises have been delivered on. And we need you to know we've been watching, and there's a consequence to those actions. And you know what? It's time for a straight talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's check in, and then let's discuss where do we go from here. And I think that's kind of at the heart of it. Taking it from a different angle, I think what it's going to take for us to move forward as a nation is going to be innovation across all levels. And I'm really excited because we're seeing tremendous innovations throughout all of these different communities that I talked about earlier that are these key demographics: women, the Latino community, youth. And I think tapping into those from a business perspective and also a political perspective is going to be critical as we move forward. So my legacy. You know, I hope that I'm able to live each day being present of the moment and the amazing blessings that I've been given, the tremendous life that I have, but at the same time forward-looking, thinking about how can I make this world a better place, not only thinking about it, but acting on it, and doing what I can, bringing mi granito de arena, my grain of sand, to really make a difference and help to contribute to making the world a better place.